So, Carol, it was just what you were saying about empowering people. I think the banks are quite good at getting the frontline staff trained up on how to deal with complaints, but as you know, banks are big organisations and they have lots of back office departments, and sometimes they fall down in getting the same level of urgency so that the complaint is dealt with competently and quickly all the way through the organisation, because sometimes you get quite a bit of resistance from back office departments.
That's an interesting point, and I attended a very interesting training session around complaints just a couple of weeks ago down in London, and a lot of the people there were talking about, complaints coming in, and if they didn't manage to get them dealt with within a couple of days, they were then parked in a pile somewhere for a very long period of time until they got nearer to the time when they might be referred on to the Ombudsman. And so there's this, they were talking about new regulations and so on that are coming out in relation to this, trying to encourage people to deal with the complaints promptly, so that they're not just sitting around in bundles. But of course, that can be quite difficult. It's quite challenging when you hear that coming from the regulator, because the Ombudsman obviously has piles of complaints as well, because they've got such a massive volume of complaints to get through that things are having to lie in bundles for a very long period of time before they're resolved.
I mean, it's kind of more sort of the fact that the person on the front line who takes the complaint knows exactly what needs to be done, but doesn't have the ability to do it. And then relying on a back office to actually carry out function.
Yes.
And that's where the lack of urgency sometimes falls in, or resistance to actually taking the action that's required. Yeah. That sometimes happens. I think the banks need to do more training up the back office staff to appreciate
Yes, it does. And I think as well that there needs to be an understanding from complaint handlers as to what the policies and processes are, but why they are as they are. Because often customers will be told, oh, that's the policy, that's the process. And people don't actually think, well, is that policy or process right? Does it actually make sense in this particular case as well? It might be the policy for the sort of 80-20 rule to cover 80%, but this could be one of the 20 that we should actually be saying, yes, sorry, I'll fix it for you, that shouldn't be happening for you, that's not what the policy or process is geared up to do. So I think there does need to be a challenge there from the staff to say this doesn't seem right. So putting it right for the customer, but also then feeding back to get the policy and processes changed.
If I could just say as well, I think, is this working? Yes. It's about kind of people working out across organisations what the organisation is about. And it's, all organisations have their list of values. This is what we're about as an organisation. And somehow those values never get kind of translated into, or sometimes don't get translated into the way in which people do their job. So they remain something that is up on a wall in an office somewhere, but don't actually, get reflected in people's behaviours in organisations. And I think one thing that organisations could do a lot more of is look at their values and get people in the organisation to work out, well, what does that mean for me? What do I need to be doing in my job in order to, be acting in line with the values of this organisation? And it appears to me that if that was kind of like a commonly shared activity, then there'd be a lot more support for achieving the things that the organisation was trying to achieve and for priorities falling in the right order.